Welcome, fellow travelers, to the Night Travelers. Tonight, we journey back through time to a world shadowed by fear and resilience, the era of the Black Death. We will walk quietly alongside those who lived through the plague, peasants and nobles, healers and rulers, witnesses to history's greatest trial. This is not a tale of horror, but of humanity, a story told with care, for peaceful rest and gentle reflection. So, settle in, breathe deeply, and let the past unfold softly as you drift towards sleep. Chapter 1. The Peasant. France, 1348. The morning breaks softly over the hills of Provence. Mist clings to the fields like a silken shroud, blurring the line between land and sky. The sun rises slowly, pale and distant, as if reluctant to shine over the quiet suffering of the world below. Roosters no longer crow as confidently as they once did. Some have died, others are silent. You are a peasant, born into the soil, bound to it by oath, by necessity, and by a rhythm older than memory. Your village is small. Perhaps 40 souls remain now, where once there were closer to 100. The rest have fled or fallen. No one says the word plague aloud, but it hangs over everything like the stench of rot from the churchyard. You wake before the light fully settles. The thatched roof above your head leaks when it rains, and the dirt floor beneath your straw bed is cold. Beside you, your youngest child coughs in her sleep. You place a hand on her brow. Cool for now. Your wife lies still, thinner than she was in the spring. You share the bed to keep warm. You do not speak much anymore. Words seem like luxuries in a world where silence has become so heavy. You rise, pull on rough woolen clothes. No change of garments, no shoes. You bind your feet with scraps of cloth and step outside. The fields await. You still tend them, though the Lord's steward has not visited in weeks. The manor is shuttered. His men fear the sickness and have stopped collecting grain, taxes, or grievances. You are free in a way, but also forgotten. The wind passes over the barley like a whisper. It should have been harvested a week ago. You pull the scythe from the fence post and begin to work. Each swing is familiar. Ritual. You think of your eldest son, who once helped you here. He left in the spring, searching for safer villages to the north. You've not heard from him since. Sometimes, when you pause to drink from the rain barrel, you imagine him walking down the lane, carrying a sack of bread, smiling. You imagine it, but you do not hope, not truly. The bell from the chapel rings once. A funeral. You do not ask for whom. You know all the faces. You saw the black swellings on the grocer's neck 2 days ago. He hadn't left his bed since. You turn your face to the wind. The air smells different now, not of the harvest, nor of rain, but of smoke. Many villagers have begun to burn herbs, rosemary, thyme, lavender, hoping the fragrant smoke will ward off the pestilence. Some carry posies in their belts, or tuck garlic into the doorways. None of it helps. You walk to the village square later in the day. The baker's hut is closed. The forge is cold. The well remains uncovered, though some say the water is cursed. A friar from Avignon passed through weeks ago, warning that God's wrath had taken hold of the earth, that sin, indulgence, and the corruption of the church had brought this punishment. He wept as he walked, barefoot, bleeding from self-inflicted lashes. The children watched him in silence. In the chapel, candles flicker. You enter, Kneel at the wooden altar. It is simple, rough-hewn, unadorned. The crucifix leans slightly to one side. You whisper prayers you've said since childhood, but now they fall from your lips with less conviction. You ask for mercy. You ask for strength. And quietly, you ask that if death comes, it comes swiftly. Outside, the sun dips behind the trees. The village seems frozen in amber, caught between yesterday's memory and tomorrow's dread. The older men speak of omens, of comets seen in the night sky, of poisoned wells, of foreigners or Jews blamed in distant towns, though none live here. Superstition walks as freely now as the rats. Dinner is thin, a crust of bread, some boiled onions, a bit of cheese left by a neighbour before she fled. You share it all. Your daughter no longer coughs. She sleeps now, deeply. You watch her chest rise and fall. You think of the world she might grow into, if the plague passes, if anything remains. That night, as you lie beneath the sagging roof, the wind picks up. It howls softly through the trees, like a voice too old to be understood. In the distance, a wolf cries. You hear it more often now. Wild creatures creeping closer to human places as the fields go untended and the roads fall quiet. You think of your ancestors, serfs, tillers, nameless men in the earth. You wonder if they too lived through sickness, if they too once feared the air they breathed. You wonder how many more graves the village can dig, and yet, despite all, you sleep, because sleep is the only sanctuary left to you. And in dreams, for a few soft hours, the world remembers what it once was. Chapter 2. The Merchant. Venice, 1348. The city breathes through water. Stone palaces rise from the lagoon like forgotten gods, their marble faces worn by salt and time. Gondolas drift past shuttered windows, their oars cutting silence into ripples. The usual calls of merchants, sailors, and singers are gone now, replaced by the sound of bells. Bells from San Marco, bells for the dead. You are a merchant, a man of trade, once of ambition. Silk from the east, pepper from India, wool from Flanders. You knew the weight of each bale, the scent of every cargo. Your life was movement, calculation, language. But now, your ledgers sit unopened. The coins in your purse feel heavier than before, because you no longer know who to pay or why. You wake to the scent of vinegar and incense. Your home, once proud and busy, is now sealed. Cloth is stuffed beneath every door, every crack. The windows are latched shut. You followed every instruction the physicians have scribbled. Burn rosemary, crush juniper, soak the linens in wine. But none of it matters. You have already buried your wife. She died 5 days ago. Quietly. She stopped speaking on the 3rd day. By the 4th, she was covered in the black marks everyone fears. You paid a local boy to help carry her to the mass pit beyond the northern wall. He did not speak a word. You gave him silver, and he did not look you in the eyes. Venice has changed. Where once there were feasts in the Fondaco, now there are sermons in the streets. The Doge remains in his palace, they say, hidden among curtains and prayers. The Great Council has lost half its members. Gondoliers wear scarves over their mouths. The spice warehouses lie empty, their gates sealed with wax. You make your way through narrow alleys, careful not to touch the walls. Here, where foreign sailors once called to barmaids and dock workers haggled with agents, there is only the whisper of wind and the distant creak of wood. You pass a tavern with its doors wide open, the floor inside covered in dust. No one loots anymore. What would they steal? A cart rolls slowly past you. Two men push it, wearing heavy cloaks and waxed hoods. Inside are bodies, still and tangled. One falls out. Neither man stops to pick it up. You step aside and bow your head, not out of reverence, but reflex. There are too many for grief now. Mourning has become exhaustion. You make your way to the docks. The harbour is quiet, but not empty. Some ships remain, tied and waiting, their sails folded like folded hands. Others float aimlessly, their crews lost to fever before docking. You look at your own ship, the San Giuliano, still tethered where you left her. She was meant to bring you to Constantinople. The cargo is still on board. Nobody dares unload it now. Word spreads that the plague arrived with Genoese vessels fleeing Caffa. That it came from the east, carried by rats and ships, or by God's will. Some say it is punishment, others say it is fate. You do not know which to believe. You only know that your apprentice, young Pietro, died after opening the crates from Alexandria. He touched nothing but the hemp rope. You once measured your life in shipments and routes. Now it is measured in candles. You light one for each soul you knew. Your wife, Pietro, the bookkeeper, your neighbour's daughter. You have nearly run out. You sit on a stone bench by the water, where once lovers met and children fed the gulls. The sea is still. The air smells of smoke and seawater. Somewhere far off, a man sings, a psalm maybe. His voice cracks and fades before the final note. You remember when you first came to Venice. Young, bold, sleeves rolled to the elbows. You remember the gold of Alexandria, the silk markets of Constantinople, the freezing docks of Bruges. You remember a time when your hands smelled of spices, not of vinegar and sweat. You remember love, commerce, and laughter. But the world is different now. Trade has stopped. Letters go unanswered. Pilgrims no longer arrive. Even the rats have grown bolder, climbing the masts of abandoned ships like kings surveying a dying empire. And yet you remain, because some part of you still waits, for the bell that doesn't ring, for the tide that brings something new, for a sign that this city of water, of stone and shadow, might breathe again. As the sun lowers behind the domes of Venice, the canals glow with orange light. The silence is not peace, but it is stillness. And in that stillness, you close your eyes, your fingers wrapped around the rosary your wife once held. You do not pray, you simply listen. To the water, to the wind, to the echo of all that has been lost. Chapter 3. The Monk. Tuscany, Italy, 1348. Dawn breaks slowly through the fog that clings to the hills of Tuscany. The monastery stands like a forgotten fortress among the olive trees, its stone walls worn smooth by centuries of wind and prayer. Birds do not sing this morning. Even they seem to fear the silence. You are a monk, Benedictine, cloistered, bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Your life has been one of rhythm and order. Matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, non, vespers, complin. Prayers marked each hour like stars across the sky. But now the bell rings not for worship, but for burial. The abbot passed 3 days ago. You found him slumped over in the scriptorium, a half-finished letter to the bishop, still ink wet on the parchment. His body now lies in a shallow grave just beyond the wall. You said the words over him. No one came to help you carry him. You enter the chapel. Light filters through the stained glass in fractured ribbons. Blue, red, gold. Dust floats in the air, catching the light like motes of ash. You kneel before the crucifix, wooden and splintered, and stare into the carved eyes of Christ. He does not look back. You whisper a litany for the dead. Your voice echoes off the cold stone, the same walls you've lived within since your youth. They once felt eternal, unshakable. Now they feel like a tomb. You remember when this place was filled with song, the psalms rising like incense. Now, only 6 monks remain from the original 32. At midday, you climb the worn stairs to the infirmary. It once served as a place of healing. Now it is a corridor of suffering. Brothers lie on pallets of straw, their faces grey, their eyes hollow. Some moan softly. Others do not move at all. You tend to them with wine, vinegar, and faith. You recite prayers. You wash feet. You wipe brows. One of the novices, Brother Matteo, takes your hand as you prepare to clean his sores. He is barely 20. His face is slick with sweat, and he asks softly, "Is this God's punishment?" You do not answer. Not because you do not care, but because you no longer know. The bishop wrote last week. He instructed all monasteries to remain calm, to continue the rites, to bury the dead with dignity. But he wrote from Siena before the plague reached him. Word reached yesterday that the cathedral there is now closed, its clergy dead or fled. No more letters will come. You descend to the scriptorium. You used to spend hours here, copying sacred texts, preserving the word of God, illuminating manuscripts with gold leaf and intricate vines. Now your quill lies unused. The ink has dried. What is there left to preserve when death seems to rewrite the world each day? Some of the brothers have turned to penance. They walk barefoot through the cloister in silence, flogging themselves, whispering the miserere between each lash. Some believe this will lift the punishment. Others believe it will at least bring peace. You do not join them. Instead, you walk to the garden. The rosemary still grows there, the lavender. Even now, life clings to the earth. You kneel and breathe it in. For a moment, it reminds you of summers long past, when the wind was warm and the world was not unraveling, when the monastery was full of voices and peace. The sun begins to fall. You ring the bell for Vespers, though only 3 brothers come. Their chants are weak but steady. You close your eyes as you sing. Let my prayer be set before thee as incense. The sound rises to the rafters, and for a moment you feel that God might still be listening. That night you sit in the cloister garden beneath the stars. You run your fingers over the smooth beads of your rosary, not to plead, not to bargain, but simply to feel something real in your hands. You do not know if you will wake tomorrow, but if you do, you will rise again before the sun. You will dress, wash, pray, and tend to the dying. You will ring the bell. You will bury the dead. You will chant Vespers, even if you are the last voice left, because this is what it means to serve. Not in times of certainty, but in silence, in doubt, and in the shadow of death. Chapter 4. The Healer. Paris, 1349. The city groans beneath a grey sky. Paris, once proud and pulsing with life, now breathes only in whispers. The Seine moves like a black ribbon through the streets. reflecting the smoke of 100 fires. Churches ring their bells slowly, not for prayer, but for the dead. You are a healer, not a physician of the university. Those men fled long ago, wrapped in fine robes and fear. You are something older, rougher, a barber surgeon, a woman of herbs, a man with tools and calloused hands. You work with poultices, vinegar, leeches and prayers. You know what the learned often forget, that healing is not always about curing, it is about witnessing. You begin your day before sunrise. Already there is a knock at your door. A mother carries her son wrapped in linen. He is 7, maybe 8. His eyes are open, but they see nothing. His skin is flushed and cold. You touch his neck and feel the telltale swelling beneath the jaw. Buboes. You do what little you can. You soak cloth in vinegar and rosewater. You crush marigold petals and whisper the names of the saints as you bind the sores. You give the mother garlic, thyme, and a white cloth soaked in camphor. She pays you in eggs. One cracks in your pocket. Outside, the streets are hushed. Pale figures move like ghosts beneath hoods and veils. Some wear leather-beaked masks filled with herbs. They are physicians, city-appointed, more symbols than saviors. Others carry no protection at all. Nuns, friars, gravediggers, touching the dying with bare hands. You make your way to a convent. They have called for you. Inside, 3 sisters lie still on straw pallets. One breathes shallowly. The other 2 are already cold. You help the remaining sister sit upright. She speaks of visions, of angels, of fire, of her childhood home in Rouen. You press cold water to her lips. She thanks you. Then she falls silent forever. You wash your hands with vinegar. The skin cracks from the dryness. You know that what you do is not enough. You've lanced buboes, drained blood, bled the fevered. You've burned rosemary until your lungs ached. You've whispered charms learned from your grandmother and read treatises written by men who've never seen a dying child. None of it stops death. But still, you try. In the market, someone has painted a red cross on the wall. It marks a home of contagion. Inside, no one moves. You've been there before. You left a salve of elder bark and onion poultice with the mother. That was 3 days ago. You say a short prayer and do not go in. By midday, you visit the apothecary. He is old, nearly blind, but still remembers every vial. He gives you powdered myrrh, wormwood, dried sage. You leave a coin, though he no longer counts them. Take care, he says. You nod, and for a moment, you allow yourself to feel the weight in your chest. Not illness, just sorrow. It has settled there like sediment. You pass Notre Dame. The great cathedral towers over the city like a silent sentinel. A priest reads scripture at the steps, but his voice is hoarse, his eyes sunken. A few gather to listen. Others light candles and place them in lines across the stone. They burn in rows, flickering symbols of hope in a darkening world. You do not stop. You have one more call. A midwife's apprentice has fallen ill in the Latin Quarter. When you arrive, the girl is delirious, her arms covered in bruises. We cool her with damp cloth, clean her bedding, and give her a syrup of poppy and vinegar to ease the pain. Her mother holds your hand. Will she live? You do not lie. You say gently, I don't know. By evening, you return home. You leave your shoes at the threshold. Wash your hands again. The herbs, drying above the fire, crackle quietly. You sit and write notes in your journal, one you've kept since the first wave of deaths. You record every remedy used, every result. Not because you expect answers, but because the act itself gives shape to the chaos. You eat a crust of bread, chew fennel to cleanse your breath. Then you light a candle for the dead. One more today. You whisper their name, if you knew it. If not, you say nothing. You simply bow your head. The wind outside picks up. Paris sleeps uneasily, wrapped in smoke and silence. But in one small room, a healer remains awake, listening to the breath of the world, fragile and fate. And still, you will rise again tomorrow, because healing is not only about saving, it is about standing witness, so that those who suffer do not do so alone. Chapter 5. The Gravedigger, Avignon, 1349. The ground no longer rests. It swells and sinks with the weight of the dead, like breath drawn too deep and held too long. Beyond the crumbling walls of Avignon, in the shadow of the papal palace, the soil has become soft and strange. Beneath its surface, thousands lie stacked like firewood. Bakers, monks, musicians, bishops, beggars. Flesh turned to silence. You are a gravedigger, not by calling, not by faith, by necessity. You were once a stonemason, strong and sure, with a craft passed down through your father's hands. You carved arches for the cathedral, repaired chimneys for the rich, laid tombstones for the dead with care. But now there are no commissions, no coin, no names, just bodies. You rise before light. Sleep is fitful. The dreams coming flashes, limbs jutting from wagons, mouths frozen in final cries, hands still clutching rosaries or the arms of those they loved. You've stopped telling anyone. Who would you tell? Your hut, built quickly from scavenged boards, leans into the wind. A rusted iron pan hangs from a nail. Beneath it, a cracked basin of vinegar and herbs. You wash your hands. Always the hands. The smell never leaves. Rot, ash, sweat, and something like iron. You breathe it like air. The carts arrive just after dawn. They rumble over the hard earth, pulled by mules whose ribs show through their hides. The drivers wear long hoods and scarves soaked in wine. Their eyes are hollow. No one speaks. They do not stop unless they must. And when they do, it is only long enough to let the corpses slide off the back, one atop another, stiff and tangled. You do not flinch anymore. You once looked at every face. Not anymore. It's mercy in its way. The trench is already half dug. It yawns like a wound, dark and wet. You descend into it barefoot. Boots are useless in this work. They rot too quickly. You've dug so many now that your palms are leather, cracked and calloused like bark. You swing the shovel into the earth, and the rhythm takes over. Dig, heave, pause, breathe. The sun rises, though you do not notice. The others arrive, 5 men like you. One used to be a soldier, one a thief, one a priest who lost his faith somewhere around the 4th pit. You speak little, a nod here, a grunt there. Words waste breath. Each of you carries a tool, a burden, a story too tired to retell. You bury hundreds each week. And still, the bodies come. Some are wrapped in linen, sewn tight like sleep sacks. Others come half naked, the plague having stolen everything, even modesty. Some clutch dolls or crosses or letters never sent. Sometimes they carry trinkets, rings, combs, knives. You used to collect them in the beginning. A pouch full of forgotten keepsakes. You buried it eventually. It felt wrong to keep them. Today, a young boy falls from the cart. His eyes are still open. His limbs swing awkwardly as he hits the ground. You step forward, lift him carefully. He cannot weigh more than a sack of flour. His hair is matted. His lips are cracked. You notice the bruise behind his ear, the bubo swelling like a walnut. You lay him down gently in the trench. You say nothing. You've said enough. By midday, the heat rises. The air thickens with flies. They swarm the bodies, dance along your arms. You slap them away without thinking. The smell grows worse in the sun. You rub a cloth soaked in vinegar beneath your nose. It helps, but only barely. At times your mind wanders. Dangerous territory. You remember the spring before the plague, when your son was still alive. He used to follow you to the stonemason's yard, balancing tools too large for his hands. He wore a cap that fell into his eyes. He liked to hum when he worked. You haven't heard humming in months. When the fever came, it took him in 3 days. You buried him yourself, not in a pit, not like this. You carried him to a hill north of the river, where wild thyme still grows, dug a small grave, marked it with a stone. A song he never finished hums in your memory. You never told anyone. That grief is yours alone. A priest comes as the sun sets. He stands at the edge of the trench, holding a book that trembles in his hands. His robes are stained. He reads a passage from the Psalms. His voice cracks. None of the others look up. You keep shoveling. When the pit is full, you cover it, slowly, reverently. Each shovelful is a gesture, a goodbye. Not enough, never enough, but all that can be done. You smooth the earth with your palms. One of the others places a crude wooden cross at the center. It has no names, only the mark of humanity. Here they were. Let them rest. You return home by moonlight. The streets are deserted. Even the dogs no longer howl. The city sleeps like a fevered child, tossing in a nightmare it cannot wake from. You walk past empty homes, boarded windows, doors marked with red. Inside your hut, you light a candle. You remove your shirt, streaked with sweat and soil. You wash again, scrubbing until the skin burns. Then you sit beside the fire, knees to chest, listening to the wind outside. You wonder if there will be anyone to bury you. If when your time comes, and it surely will, someone will take care not to toss you like meat into a hole. You hope, but you do not expect. And still, when the candle burns low and the city falls to silence, you sleep. Because tomorrow, the carts will creak again, and the dead will wait, and the ground will open once more. Chapter 6. The Noblewoman. Burgundy, France, 1349. The estate lies in stillness, wrapped in vines and silence. Stone towers rise from the fog like half-forgotten memories, and the wind that moves through the orchard is soft, almost apologetic. The fountains have dried. The halls echo with footsteps that no longer come. You are surrounded by servants, but most are gone. The ones who remain walk quietly, as if trying not to disturb the air. You are a noble woman, daughter of a count, wife to a courtier, lady of this land since your 13th year. You have dined with bishops, danced beneath tapestries woven with gold. Your hands once wore rings from Spain, your neck laced with pearls from Venice. You were taught Latin, poetry, music. But now you count days by funerals, not feasts. The plague arrived in Dijon first. Word came by messenger, carrying letters sealed with trembling hands. Entire families struck down, monasteries burned, markets emptied. You fled the city within a week, riding under moonlight with a guard, your ladies in waiting, and a sack of relics. The estate, you were told, would be safe, far from the roads, far from the rot. But death does not knock anymore. It slits through keyholes. You walk the corridor of your east wing, where he remained in court, obligated, he said, to serve. You received a letter 3 weeks ago. He wrote of isolation, of prayers, of half the court falling ill. He said he loved you. He signed with his seal. Yesterday, you received another message, his physician's hand. He has passed. May God grant him peace. You did not cry, not because you lack sorrow, but because tears feel too fragile for this new world. You sat for hours beneath the linden tree in the courtyard, where once your son played with carved wooden horses. He died the previous autumn, long before the plague came. You sometimes wonder if that was mercy. At mealtime, only 3 servants remain to set the table. They place your plate, your cup, your silver knife, and then retreat. You dine alone in a hall made for celebration. The fire crackles, the food is warm, but each bite tastes faintly of ash. You force yourself to eat. Hunger no longer visits without invitation. You dress each morning in silk. Not for vanity, but for rhythm, for habit. The gowns hang loosely now, your figure thinner than before. You sit by your mirror and brush your hair, counting strokes as your nurse once taught you. The mirror reflects a face pale and sharp, eyes that do not blink quickly, fingers that tremble. Your ladies have gone. One died in her sleep. You found her yourself, lips parted, hair still braided. The other fled, left a note beneath your door, asking forgiveness. She could not bear to die behind stone. In the chapel, you light candles. One for your husband, one for your son, one for your lady, one for the many names you do not know, but feel pressed against the world like a storm against the glass. The crucifix above the altar seems to weep in shadow. You kneel, recite prayers in Latin, then in French. Sometimes you do not speak at all. Silence is its own offering now. At dusk, you take to the tower. From there, you see the countryside, vast, golden, still. Smoke rises from distant farmhouses. A line of riders passes along the hill, robed figures with carts behind them. You recognize the shape of the dead, even from afar. You do not wave, you do not call out. You simply watch, one hand resting on the stone ledge, the other clutching your rosary. You have not heard laughter in weeks. No lute, no song. The birds, at least, still sing. You wonder if they understand what has happened, if they too mourn. The roses in your garden bloom boldly. Nature does not seem to notice the absence of man. You sleep in a great bed meant for 2. The canopy above you is embroidered with stars and saints. You trace them with your eyes until they blur. Some nights you dream of your childhood, of warm kitchens and books, of a maid singing lullabies in Occitan. Other nights you dream of fire, of doors sealed shut, of coughing from the dark. Each morning You rise, you wash, you dress, you write in your journal, careful letters on parchment imported years ago. You document the days, not because you think someone will read them, but because it helps anchor time. You are not a healer, you are not a priest, but you bear witness. And when the day ends and you walk once more through your silent estate, you speak aloud the names of those you've lost. You let them echo off the stone so that something, somewhere, remembers. Chapter 7. The Ruler. Florence, Italy, 1348. The bells ring no longer. The great bronze tongues that once tolled for weddings, for markets, for mass, now hang silent in their towers, rust collecting at their mouths. The city is quiet, unnaturally so. Florence, once a chorus of chatter, horses, and artisans, now murmurs only in coughs and whispers. And behind shuttered windows, it waits. You are the podestar of Florence, appointed not by blood, but by law, a man trusted to rule in fairness and order. Once, your hands signed decrees on taxes, trade, and land disputes. Now, they sign only death lists and containment edicts. Your ink is black, but your thoughts are darker. Your chambers overlook the Piazza della Signoria. Once a place of colour and music, it now sits pale beneath the sun, watched only by pigeons and armed guards. The statues still stand. David, Hercules, Judith. But even they seem to look down in mourning. On some days, you think they might cry. You rise before dawn. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow and riddled with noise, imagined or real. You dream of your childhood by the Arno, of olive groves and lemon trees. But always the dream sours. Faces vanish, the sky darkens, the river runs black. When you wake, it's to the scent of vinegar and burning herbs. The physicians have ordered them burned at all entrances. You obey them now more than the clergy. Your advisors wait in the Sala Rossa. They no longer sit in comfort. Each chair is spaced, each man cloaked and masked. The table is long, yet the air feels stifling. Reports arrive hourly. 70 more dead in Santa Croce. Merchants fleeing to the hills. A convent sealed with boards. Food prices rising. Riots feared in Oltrano. You sign proclamations without discussion. Close the northern gates. Burn the soiled linens. Prevent entry from Siena. Post guards at the churches. Seal the wine cellars. Bury the dead faster. It is not governance, it is containment. You do not rule now. You manage ruin. The physicians argue. Some say the stars have shifted. Others blame the Jews, the lepers, the sinners. They propose more incense, more fire, more bloodletting. One recommends cutting a live pigeon in half and pressing it to the armpit. You nod, though your mind is elsewhere. You've tried prayer. You've tried reason. The plague listens to neither. At midday, you walk the upper halls. You avoid the lower levels. Too many servants have fallen ill. You keep only 3 now, all young, all terrified. Your wife has moved to her father's villa in Fiesole. Your son is with her. You have not embraced them in weeks. When your steward dyed coughing blood into a linen sheet, you stopped taking visitors altogether. From the high balcony, you watch the processions. Hooded penitents walk barefoot through the streets, whipping themselves with leather cords, chanting hymns of fear and sorrow. Their backs bleed. Their songs are tremulous. Behind them, a cart wheels past, stacked with bodies. The grave diggers no longer wait for sunset. You remember when Florence held races, festivals, laughter. Now the streets host only dust and death. You retreat to your writing desk. The parchments before you are crumpled, the quill dull. You try to write to the Senate in Venice, requesting grain and physicians, but your words trail off. You start a letter to your wife. You rewrite it 5 times. In the end, you burn them all. The evening brings more bad news. 2 monks from San Marco are dead. The bishop refuses to hold public mass. A group of beggars has broken into the cathedral to sleep. You dispatch guards, but your orders feel like water poured into sand. What is there to protect when even the priests cannot bless the dying? You sit beneath a tapestry of your lineage. Golden threads weave a proud past, your family crest, your grandfather at war, your father beside the Doge. You stare at it for a long time. You wonder if anyone will remember you, not as a ruler, but as a man who stayed behind when others fled. You did not flee. You chose to stay, though the city is dying. You chose to remain, though every cough behind a wall might be your final summons. Because someone had to remain, not for glory, for duty, for Florence. At night, the city moans. Wind whistles through alleys. Dogs bark into the dark. Somewhere, a child cries out. You sit with a candle, its flame bending gently with your breath. You read the Psalms aloud. Your voice cracks on the verses. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You pause, because you know now, it is not a valley, it is your city. And you walk through it every hour. But still, you sit, you govern, you listen, you write. Because even when the people vanish, the stones remember. Chapter 8. The Jew. Strasbourg, Alsace, 1349. The city streets feel colder than ever, though the sun struggles to pierce through the thick grey clouds hanging low. Timbered houses lean close, their shadows long and restless. The cobblestones beneath your feet are uneven, worn by generations, yet now they seem heavy, as if burdened by the whispers of fear drifting through the air. You belong to the Jewish Quarter, a tightly knit community that has thrived here for centuries. Your family has tended to trade, crafted shoes, studied holy. The plague arrived without warning, like a ghost that slipped silently through the city gates. It has taken so many, neighbors, friends, children. You buried them with solemn rites, wrapped in cloth, prayers sung softly in Hebrew. Yet with each passing day, the eyes of the city grow colder, their gazes heavy with suspicion. Rumors spread like wildfire, words sharper than any blade. They poison the wells. They consort with demons. They bring death upon the Christian world. You hear the words in the marketplace, whispered behind cupped hands. In the taverns, shouted by men drunk with fear. They echo in the halls where city leaders once promised protection. One evening, as the sun dips beneath the horizon, a strange silence falls over the quarter. The usual sounds, laughter, the clink of tools, prayers, fade into uneasy stillness. Windows shutter, doors bolt tight. Mothers clutch children close. The elders murmur blessings, their voices trembling. Suddenly, a distant roar breaks the quiet. The crackle of torches, the clamour of angry voices swelling like a storm. You see them, a mob fueled by fear and rage, carrying pitchforks and clubs, faces twisted by desperation. Their footsteps thunder through the streets, breaking glass and shattering what little peace remains. In a panic, you gather your family into your home, locking every door and shutter. The children cling to their prayer books, their small hands trembling. You press your palm to their foreheads, whispering blessings learned from your mother, hoping to shield them from the terror beyond the walls. Flames leap and dance in the distance, casting flickering shadows that seem to reach for you. The synagogue, once a sanctuary filled with the soft glow of candles and the murmur of ancient songs, is now engulfed in smoke and fire. The smell of burning wood and parchment fills the air, stinging your eyes and throat. The mob bursts into the quarter. You hear the shouts, the crashes, the screams. You hold your breath as footsteps pound closer, as doors are forced open. There is no mercy here, only chaos and hatred. Friends and neighbours are dragged into the street, their pleas swallowed by the roar. You hide in a cellar beneath the rubble, the darkness pressing in around you like a shroud. Your heart pounds in your chest, loud and relentless. You hold your children close, feeling their warmth against your cold skin. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time loses meaning in the suffocating silence, broken only by distant screams. When dawn finally breaks, the quarter is unrecognizable. Ash and smoke curl into the sky where homes once stood. The streets are littered with broken wood, shattered dreams, and silent bodies. The vibrant life that once pulsed here has been crushed beneath hatred and fear. Yet, in the quiet devastation, a flicker of hope remains. You and the few who survived gather what you can, tending to the sick in secret, burying the dead quickly and respectfully, despite the danger. You whisper prayers in hushed tones, clinging to the traditions that bind you. Each act of care, each word of comfort, becomes a quiet rebellion against the darkness. Because in this world shattered by plague and violence, survival itself is an act of courage. You do not know what tomorrow will bring, but tonight, as you light a small candle in the ruins of your once thriving quarter, you hold on to one truth. You are not alone. You are witness, you are endurance, you are hope. Chapter 9. The Peasant Woman Midwife, Yorkshire, England, 1348. The dawn light slips softly through the thatched roof, pale and trembling, as if uncertain whether to rise fully or retreat. The village lies wrapped in a delicate shroud of mist, still and hushed, except for the gentle bleating of sheep in distant fields and the solitary crow of a rooster announcing the new day. Smoke curls lazily from a handful of chimneys, twisting upward in thin grey ribbons, yet many hearts lie cold and silent, victims of grief or fear. You wrap a worn, threadbare shawl tight around your shoulders, its fabric rough against your skin, but a small comfort against the morning chill. Your boots sink softly into the muddy lanes, each step careful and measured. Today, like every day, you carry more than baskets heavy with herbs or swaddling cloths. You carry the fragile hope of life itself. You are a midwife, not one taught in grand halls or universities, nor ordained by any church decree. You were chosen by the village women, not for titles or status, but for your knowledge, your steady hands, your heart that knows both the agony and miracle of birth. You have seen the coming of more children than seasons, guiding them into the world with whispered prayers and gentle strength. Yet now, in this time of plague, the cycle of life feels almost cruel, fragile and precious in a world brimming with death. The Black Death creeps quietly through the county, invisible and deadly. Neighbours vanish overnight, homes abandoned in sudden silence. Some whisper of curses laid by dark hands. Others murmur of divine wrath punishing the sinful. But you know the cold truth beneath the fear. The sickness moves swift and silent, striking down the young and old alike, sparing no one. And yet, even amid this shadow, children are born, tiny beacons of stubborn life. This morning, you cross fields heavy with dew, the grass slick beneath your boots, as you make your way to a small cottage nestled on the village's edge. The air is thick with the sharp scent of herbs, rosemary, thyme, fennel, bundled and strewn to ease pain and keep away evil spirits. The earth smells damp and alive, a faint hint of wildflowers struggling to bloom despite the gloom. Inside, a young woman labours quietly, her face pale but etched with fierce determination. Sweat beads on her brow, and each breath is shallow and urgent. Her husband sits near the hearth, eyes wide with fear, hands clenching and unclenching as he stares into the flickering flames. The room is modest, only a few rough wooden chairs, a table scarred by time, and a single candle whose flame dances and flickers with each breath drawn by the mother and the midwife alike. You prepare your tools with calm precision. A bowl of clean water, fresh linen cloths folded carefully, sharp scissors glinting in the candlelight, and a small knife for the umbilical cord. There is no physician to call, no sterile hall for the birth, only this humble room where life and death meet in quiet struggle. The labour is long and difficult. Your hands steady but warm, you guide the mother through each contraction, murmuring prayers and encouragement in the old tongue, a language of comfort and protection passed down from your mother's mother. You listen intently for the baby's cries, watching for every sign of life. The woman grips your hand tightly, strength ebbing and flowing like the tides, raw and relentless. Outside, the village watches with wary eyes. Families shutter their doors tightly, fearful that your visits may carry death as surely as the plague itself. Mothers clutch their children closer, eyes darting as you pass by, some with suspicion, others with silent hope. You have become both bearer of life and symbol of danger, a paradox in a world unraveling. At last, the silence is broken by a wail, a newborn's first breath piercing the stillness. You gently clean the child, careful and tender, wrapping him in soft linen swaddling cloths. You press the tiny form to his mother's breast, and tears spill freely down her cheeks. Tears of relief, exhaustion, and profound joy. In this fragile moment, life continues. Fragile, yet unbroken. But the shadow of the plague lingers close. You cannot linger. There are others who need your hands, your prayers, your presence. Some will survive, others will slip away despite your efforts. With what little you have, you do all you can, knowing that each life saved is a small, precious victory against the tide of despair. As night falls, you sit beside your own hearth, the weight of the day heavy in your aching bones. You prepare poultices and grind herbs beneath the flickering light, whispering prayers for healing and protection. Your hands are roughened by labour, your heart weary but resolute. You are witness to beginnings and endings, a quiet thread stitching fragile hope into the vast fabric of despair. As the village sleeps under a moon veiled by clouds, you close your eyes, drawing in a deep breath, hoping for strength to meet tomorrow's dawn. Because though the world around you may crumble, life, like you, endures. Chapter 10. The Healer Nun, Cluny Abbey, Burgundy, 1349. The ancient stone walls of Cluny Abbey hold the weight of centuries, quietly bearing witness to countless prayers whispered in shadowed chapels, soft footsteps echoing through cloisters, and the steady passage of days marked by ritual and reverence. Moss clings to the weathered stones, and the air hums faintly with the scent of incense and damp earth. Around the abbey, gardens bloom with medicinal herbs, sage, lavender. Feverfew, each leaf and flower tended carefully by hands both gentle and worn, skilled in the delicate art of healing. You are a healer nun, part of a sisterhood sworn to serve God and neighbour alike. Your life shaped by the rhythm of prayer, work, and compassion. Each morning, long before dawn, the abbey stirs with the soft murmur of chant rising into the cool, still air. A fragile melody of hope and faith. These sacred routines offer steadiness. A beacon in a world now shaken by fear. But the steady beat has been broken. The relentless march of death has come to Cluny's quiet sanctuary. The plague, that invisible scourge, creeps silently through the abbey's halls. One by one, the sisters fall ill. Some succumb quickly, their bodies frail against the disease's cruel grasp. Others linger in fevered delirium, lost in dreams or nightmares only they can see. You move through the infirmary with quiet urgency, your hands steady, though your heart aches. You wash wounds with cool water, preparing potions and balms made from crushed herbs. Your hands sometimes tremble, not from fear, but exhaustion, the weight of so much suffering pressing down like a heavy shroud. The garden is your refuge and your pharmacy. You gather herbs with care, mindful to take only what you need, leaving the rest to grow for future healing. Sage leaves crushed between your fingers release a sharp, earthy scent. Lavender blooms offer a soft, calming fragrance, and feverfew's delicate white flowers promise relief from fever's heat. In your small workspace, you grind roots and leaves into bitter teas, believing deeply in their power to soothe burning fevers and ease harsh coughs. You boil vinegar and rosemary and sprinkle the fragrant steam through the halls, hoping it will cleanse the air of invisible evil. It may be superstition, but in these dark days, it is a thread of hope you cling to. Each day, you witness sorrow in its rawest form. Mothers clutch daughters with trembling arms. Children call out for fathers who no longer answer. The abbey's bells toll softly at first, a gentle remembrance, but soon their mournful peals grow louder, relentless, echoing across the hills. You have learned to hold grief close, letting it shape your prayers but not consume your spirit. In the infirmary, you tend the sickest among the sisters, those too weak to care for themselves. You wipe their fevered brows, hold their hands as they struggle between waking and sleep, whisper prayers of comfort and peace. You watch the light fade from their eyes, feeling the deep weight of each loss settle into your bones. Yet despair does not find a place in your heart. Faith carries you forward, a steady flame against the encroaching darkness. Outside the abbey walls, the world trembles with chaos and fear. Villages burn as panic turns to violence. Cities shutter their gates, filled with suspicion and despair. The living either flee or fight to survive. But within these stone walls and sacred spaces, you find a fragile peace, a place where service and witness intertwine, where hope is tended like the precious herbs in your garden. At night, in the quiet of your cell, you kneel before the altar, lighting candles for the souls taken and for those still clinging desperately to life. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the cold stone. You read passages from scripture, your voice soft yet steady, a balm for your aching heart. You speak of mercy, healing, and eternal light, asking for strength to face what tomorrow may bring. You do not know what the next day will hold, whether more loss or moments of grace, but you vow to continue, to heal with gentle hands, to pray with unyielding faith, and to endure in the face of darkness, because even in the longest, coldest nights, there is light, and it is that light you carry, within yourself, within the sisterhood, within this ancient abbey, until dawn. Chapter 11. The Plague Doctor's Journey, Northern Italy, 1349. You rise before dawn, the world cloaked in a fragile, cold silence. The sky is a deep, bruised blue, dotted with trembling stars. You dress with deliberate care, pulling on your waxed leather robes that glisten faintly in the candlelight. Your wide-brimmed hat settles on your head. The long gloves slide over your hands. Last, you place the infamous beaked mask over your face. The herbs within, lavender, mint, cloves, fill your nostrils with their sharp scent. A fragile barrier against a sickness you cannot see, but that lurks everywhere. Stepping into the street, you feel the weight of the mask's hollow gaze. Its dark eye holes revealing nothing, yet concealing everything. The village is emptying. Families have barricaded themselves inside, leaving windows shuttered and doors bolted tight. The silence is suffocating. Occasionally, the faint wail of a mourner pierces the stillness, or the groan of someone too weak to cry out. You pass homes where the scent of death hangs thick. The acrid stench of sweat, rot, and decay, mixing with the earthy smell of overturned soil. Where hastily dug graves wait to claim the next victims. Your boots crunch over scattered belongings. A child's wooden toy, a torn shawl. Remnants of lives interrupted. Stories cut short. At the first house, a family awaits in trembling fear. The mother lies pale and fevered on a straw mattress, her breathing shallow and ragged. Her husband stands helplessly nearby, tears streaking grime from his cheeks. You grip your wooden cane tightly, steadying your hands as you examine swollen lymph nodes, the telltale buboes that burn with dark heat beneath her skin. Your touch is gentle but firm. You apply poultices soaked in vinegar and crushed herbs, hoping to draw out the poison. You whisper soft prayers, though you cannot promise salvation. Around you, the room is heavy with despair. The air thickens with coughs and the rattle of lungs failing. You see the hollow eyes of children, the gaunt faces of the elderly, all caught in the plague's relentless grip. The cries of the dying echo in your ears as you move to the next house. You step carefully over a child's body left where it fell, abandoned in the chaos. The weight of helplessness threatens to crush your spirit. You remind yourself why you came, to be a sliver of mercy amid horror. You enter a room where the floor is stained dark. The sick woman clutches her chest, gasping for air as her breath shortens. You spray vinegar in the corners, fumigate the space with burning herbs. It is a fragile ritual against a merciless foe. You hold her hand, feeling the tremors ripple through her frail frame. Outside, the streets grow quieter still. The tolling bells ring out louder now, marking funerals by the dozen. Gravediggers labour under the setting sun, their shovels carving earth for the endless parade of corpses. You glimpse the long carts piled high with the dead, their faces frozen in silent screams or peaceful repose. Everyone equal in death. At times, villagers accuse you of spreading the plague, whispering that the mask's beak is a curse, that your presence invites death rather than wards it off. Some flee at your approach, others hurl stones. You endure their fear and hatred, knowing your work is necessary, even if misunderstood. As dusk descends, you retreat to your chamber, your body aching, your heart heavy. You wash the grime from your hands and face, though the mask hides your weariness. You light candles and kneel in prayer, asking for strength, for forgiveness, for hope. The horrors you have seen haunt your dreams, the faces of the lost, the cries unanswered, the silence where life once thrived. Yet even here in the darkness, you hold on, because you are the watcher between worlds, the bearer of fragile hope, and the last line against despair. You carry the stories of the dying, so they are not forgotten. And when morning comes, you will don your mask again, step into the quiet streets, and face the plague shadow once more. Final chapter. The Dawn After Darkness. Europe, 1353. The grip of the plague has finally loosened, though its scars remain etched deep upon the land and in the hearts of its people. The streets no longer lie silent under a shroud of death, but echo softly with cautious footsteps, tentative yet determined to reclaim life. Morning light filters gently through clouds heavy with the scent of damp earth and renewal. You wander through a world forever altered, where fields once trampled and left barren now stretch in uneven green. A fragile promise of new harvests to come. Villages, hollowed and quiet for so long, stir again with the sounds of life. Chickens clucking, children's laughter, tentative but growing stronger with each day. Cities wear their wounds with a strange pride. Cracked walls, boarded windows, empty courtyards. But still they breathe. In the marketplace, merchants cautiously set out their goods, their eyes wary but shining with determination. The scent of spices and fresh bread mingles with the crisp air, a reminder that trade and connection endure. Peasants return to the fields, their hands calloused and weathered, planting seeds with care and hope. Monks reopen cloisters, their prayers rising once more like smoke curling toward the heavens. Nobles rebuild estates with trembling hope, their voices hushed, yet filled with purpose. The gravediggers finally rest, their endless labour paused in a long-awaited breath. But the memories you carry these stories within you now. Tales of fear and faith entwined. Sorrow met with strength, cruelty countered by compassion. Stories whispered in prayers beneath the stars, passed down in the turning of weathered pages, woven into the steady rhythm of daily life. They are threads in a vast tapestry, binding the past to the present, the lost to the living. The world will never be the same. Old certainties have crumbled, old beliefs questioned, and new ideas have taken root in the fertile soil of change. Yet humanity endures, fragile, flawed, and fiercely alive. From the deepest despair, hope blooms like wildflowers pushing through cracked stone, stubborn and bright. As twilight falls, you lift your gaze to the night sky, where stars shine with the same ancient light that has travelled countless centuries to meet your eyes. Their quiet brilliance is a reminder that even in the darkest times, light persists. You breathe deeply, feeling the cool, fresh air fill your lungs. A gift both precious and renewing. Tomorrow remains uncertain, its path hidden in shadows and dreams yet to come. But it is also a gift, unwrapped slowly and carefully with each new dawn. And so you close your eyes and sleep, your heart heavy with memory, yet lightened by hope. Ready to rise and walk forward, step by careful step, into the dawn after darkness. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's darkest times, the Black Death era. We walked beside peasants, merchants, monks, healers, and rulers. We felt their fears, hopes, and quiet courage. Though centuries have passed, their stories remind us of the resilience and enduring spirit of humanity. If this tale brought you calm or comfort, please consider subscribing to The Night Travelers for more peaceful stories from history and beyond. May your nights be restful, your dreams gentle, and your mornings bright. Until next time, sleep well and travel safely.